You're listening to Lead, Sell, Grow the Human Experience podcast. I am your host, Eric Konovalov, and I believe that we can achieve everything we want if we take our leadership, sales ability, and personal growth to a higher level. On this show, we share ideas on how to break through our invisible boundaries, start taking steps towards our dreams, and create the life we desire. I invite you to open your mind to new possibilities, new ideas, and to the truth that everything you want is possible for you. Thank you for being here and welcome to the show. Welcome back, everybody, to another episode of Lead, Sell, Grow the Human Experience podcast. If you are not in my Facebook group, get your butt over there. Lead, Sell, Grow the Human Experience Tribe. Let's connect there. And if you don't know my guest today, Anthony Russo, he is a Dallas, Fort Worth-based MC, performance coach, and motivational speaker. He specializes in overcoming failure. My man has failed so many times, he turned it into positivity. And
Turned it into a profession.
Turned it into a profession. He's a professional failure. He's also the founder of Be the Change, Awake Not Woke Clothing, host of Truth Will Set You Free podcast, his new show, Blunt Force Discussion. You guys got to check that out. His studio is amazing. He's getting on some incredible guests. So be one of the first. Go to his YouTube channel and subscribe to Blunt Force Discussion. Check that show out. He's going to be the next Joe Rogan with that show. He loves the idea of having conversations and meeting people where they are in life, business, or yes, even politics. He also likes long walks on the beach, topless. Anthony, welcome to the show, brother.
Bottomless mimosas. You know, I talk about failure. My mom, like as good parents do, they say you can be anything you want when you grow up. And, you know, I took that to heart. So I became a failure. And I was like, you know what? I'm going to be the best at failing. And that's how I got into, failing. So
don't you kind of have to get good at failing to succeed?
You have to, and it's like such a cliche thing. You know, you'll hear the Les Browns of the world. You'll hear the Tony Robbins of the world, and I think failure became in vogue. I think in the last like 6-7 years, where it was like, let's stop talking about perfection, because I think we realize that causes so much stress on the brain. Let's find a way to take the inevitable failures and turn it into something positive, a positive speaking point. And when you look at those that have been successes, we used to use that photo, the picture, not the photo, but the picture of the person with like the little bit of the mountain. And that's all people see, is that you're at the top of the mountain. They completely ignore everything that's been underneath the water and how hard you worked. And we realized we were setting people up for failure because they didn't realize they have to take risks. They have to fail in order to get to where they were going. And I just love the idea of analyzing failures and being okay with it and knowing how to move past it.
All right, but how did you start analyzing failures? Because that's I think the first step is reflection, right? Like, I think first is like taking responsibility. Hey, this shit is my fault. Now let me analyze what went wrong. But a lot of people don't do that. A lot of people have the blame game, right? This failed because of, he made me mad. That law just changed and did this to me. Everything is always somebody else's fault. So talk to me about like a specific failure where you feel like was your first one that you actually analyzed.
Well, the first thing I did is I put on a little Michael Jackson and I listened to Man in the Mirror. I'm kidding. That's a joke. So Man in the Mirror. I realized my first failure. And the thing that I always start with is, I was raised, you and I have talked many times. I was raised on free lunch. I was raised poor. I saw a lot of failure from my parents, and then I saw how they got past it. My dad was handicapped. He had multiple sclerosis, and he was also a compulsive gambler. And later in life, I realized it kind of related to the way that I started looking at my mistakes. So my dad would play a version of blackjack called negative progression. Not to be confused with the Nightingale, the martingale or nightingale system, but it's negative progression. Every time you lose, you double your bet. And we could talk about the math behind that later, but the way that I realized I was going about my life, and I didn't even know this till way after as an entrepreneur, that every time I failed, I was learning from my mistake and not making it the next time. Not to say that I didn't keep failing, because I think that's just part of it. You're always one step forward, half a step back, or two steps forward. You're always going back and forth. And I looked at my first business, which was a dog tag company, like military style dog tags, but I called it Pride Tags. And there was so many mistakes made, some of which were my own that I'll take ownership for, some of which it was right during the recession, and it was not a recession-proof business. And I got a $100,000 loan because I wrote up this absolutely amazing business plan. But at the same time, a great business plan does not mean great execution. I also had to learn how to be lean, and I didn't know how to be lean at the time, which therefore helped 2 businesses later. So yeah, my first failure was really that business, and just I got lucky enough to survive out of that because I continued to work hard. I found little things here and there to pay my way and to try to pay off the loans. But yeah, big failure on that. And the lessons I learned there are what made me successful in other businesses. I would have never been successful without the failures that happened there.
Dude, so have you ever had a job?
So I had a job right out of college. I went to school and it's funny, I love math, which is really awkward for somebody that went to art school. So I went to school for graphic design and advertising with an emphasis in video. And I got out of school, and one of the places that I interned for, when they found out that I was willing to do sales, they were like, well, we'll hire you. All of a sudden, like, it was a bidding war to get me to work for like 2 different places. When I was about to, I went to school in Milwaukee. I was about to move back to St. Louis, Missouri. And then all of a sudden, a bunch of people are like, we'll have you do sales. And I was like, oh, this makes sense. I'm a way better talker than I am designer. So I worked for them for about 1.5 years. And then, yeah, I guess from that point forward, I went into promotions and did promotional marketing, experiential marketing, realized I was good on microphone and managing staff. And yeah, I would say that those were jobs, but it was always contractor work.
Yeah. And now, I mean, are you still doing the stuff with Fox Sports?
I am still doing the stuff with Fox Sports. I'm waiting on my contract patiently, like just kind of any minute. Nope, still not. But yeah, I do every weekend college football with Fox Big Noon Kickoff. And, somebody asked me my favorite question I get asked about that job this last week. So that's the Saturday morning show with Matt Leinart, Reggie Bush, Brady Quinn, Rob Stone, and Bob Stoops last year, all the big names. And I wait for people to ask this question because I think this is super important when you get to work with kind of big names like that. They're like, which one's the nicest and which one's kind of the jerk, like that nobody wants to be around. The great part about this group is they are the nicest. There's not a single bad word I could say about a single one of them. And I think that's how you say, how do you take over an institution? And the institution they're trying to take over is Game Day, College Game Day, which has been around, Lee Corso, that whole group for like 20 years. How do you all of a sudden start to beat them? You put together a good product and you're good people. And all 5 of those guys are good people. And it's made a huge difference because each one of them have treated me with respect, but I'm working with them and I'm kind of, the fans and the people they work with, everybody they meet, they are so respectful too. So I think that's an important thing to see.
You got all these athletes there. How the hell did you end up in that group?
You, sir, are a jerk. And that's actually.
Are you also an athlete? I missed that part about your graphic design in college where you told me you were an athlete.
I actually was. No, you laugh. I was. I went to school at Milwaukee Institute of Art and Design. And I got cross registration over at Marquette University. Marquette University was right up the street, right when D Wade was there. I was allowed to play club sports. So I actually played college club football for 1 year and then college club baseball all 4 years while I was out there. So yes, I'm a little bit of a mediocre athlete.
I always thought you were a jock. Okay.
I was a pitcher. We're not really a jock. We just sit there. But the way I got this job is actually it's kind of a lesson I teach people, which is when you have an opportunity, go all out. And it was the Red River rivalry. Never can say that. Oklahoma plays Texas every year at the Texas State Fair, and it's tons of fanfare, all this stuff. I usually worked the state fair when I was doing independent contractor work for Nissan, and I got a phone call saying, hey, you're a backup, but we want you to do it because they couldn't have the person they wanted to work with Fox Sports on this weekend to do their new version of College Game Day. So I was like, what's the pay? The pay was good. The pay was pretty decent. I'm like, I'll find a way to do it. And it was show up at 6 a.m. I went full tilt. Like I'm a crowd hype guy. So I get the crowd organized. I get them excited. They gave me almost $10,000 worth of stuff to give away to fans to get them excited because they wanted to show that they could compete with College Game Day. I had my pedometer on it, my step meter on at the time. I did in a space that is about the size of, I would say 60 by 60, maybe not too big, 12 miles. In 12 miles in about a cumulative 7 hours worth of work. No voice left at the end of it. And then I had to go work the rest of the day for Nissan that night. I worked a 18-hour day. They loved me. They literally were like, anytime we do this, we're going to use you. So I wasn't the number one. I was the backup. And then all of a sudden I became the person they called upon. And even to this day, I don't think we share political opinions, and they still will say, as long as you don't bring your politics to work, bring it, and they allow me to continue to do it. And now it's sounding like I will be doing 12 games. Last year it started out at 4 or 6, I think, and then it ended up at 10. And this year it'll hopefully be 12. And they have upped my pay from the pay that I already thought was really good. So it's a great opportunity, and they're great people to work with. All because I busted my butt from day one.
Well, technically, okay, so now you can say you're the Tom Brady of, sportscasting.
I would say I'm the Tom Brady of crowd MCs. I would say that. I think, and in all reality, not to sound haughty, I would say there's about 10 MCs that are in this specific industry. Danny Hoyt's another guy. Rossi Moriali, who actually runs the business that I got that work on. There's only about 10 MCs that have kind of my stature in that industry. Problem is, it doesn't typically pay as well as Fox Sports does.
But you love what you do, man. You like lit up when you're talking about it. So that's a good thing.
I still the thing, and I know that, I'm almost 40, so I know that I've got maybe 5 years left of that, but there's something about, and I've been in front of 80, there's not too many people that can say, you've gotten to like hype a crowd in front of 80,000 people and what that feels like, unless you're a rock star. And I'm definitely not a rock star because I'm usually doing a promotion for AT&T, but it's just like, all right, this guy's going to figure out what that Pictionary picture looks like. But when you can actually have control of a crowd with a microphone, and just know the trigger words and inflection in your voice to make sure an Alabama fans go nuts or the LSU fans go nuts, and they're on two sides of a room, and feeling that energy is something that I'm sure only rock stars can and typically can understand. And it's awesome. It's fun.
No, that's great. So we were both speakers when you helped put on the event for Barb and Dave, the Great American Summit earlier this year. That was an awesome event. And you came out with the Spartans thing, screaming. Dude, Anthony had the whole room doing the Spartan Warriors. Aroo, aroo, aroo. Aroo, aroo. Oh man, it was a great time. All right,
Patriots, what is your profession? Yeah. Sorry, go ahead.
Patriots, what is your profession? It was awesome. The energy. You had some like famous Navy SEALs there. David Webb was there. Like Nick Vujicic was there. Like it was awesome.
Bedros Killian. Yeah.
Bedros Killian was there. Yeah. So you've started a bunch of businesses. You failed at a bunch of businesses.
Yeah.
Couple questions there. One, some lessons learned. Like, what do you ensure to do now every time you're starting a business because you failed at it before? And then number two, and maybe you answer the number two first, what keeps you freaking going? Why didn't you just, after like the third or fourth failure, why don't you just say, screw this, I'm just going to go get a job, get my 150, 200 grand a year, and just be happy?
It's funny, after this last failure that, we'll probably at least talk about at one point before this is over. I actually was like, maybe it's time to just get a job. But that lasts like a day or two, and I'm like, I can't. That's just not who I am. And I love the ability to speak, and I love the ability to start businesses. And it's just the reason you keep going is it's the weird entrepreneurs have such a weird brain. And I think that's just how we're wired, where we look at 40 hours to 50 hours a week as torture, but we look at 100 hours a week as fun when we are doing what we love. And sometimes what we love includes losing money, includes failing in small ways, but it also includes the ability to say, F it, I'm going to go do this and go for a 3-day vacation in the middle of the week. And also having an impact and being able to employ other people. When I owned my promotional staffing agency, there was 2,000 people a year that I was writing checks to. And there was something about that, just providing an ecosystem that continues to feed. Like when you really look at it at the end of the day, when you're struggling and people aren't showing up and business is rough or something, a sale falls through. And for me at that point, when I was employing all those people, at the end of the day, I go, there's a lot of parents that are using this to pay for rent, paying for food for their kids. And I was providing employment or providing contractor work for these people to not just survive, but thrive. And I've gotten to see in that industry that I've kind of exited, but I see it. I see a lot of people that respect me still to this day. They were like, you were my first promotion ever. And then here I am managing a tour at $2,000 a week and thriving and all this stuff. So I do love that industry, even though I've distanced myself from it. Now, to your first question, when I make the mistakes, what am I kind of learning and how I keep restarting is I still make a ton of mistakes. I still fail, but my goal is always to never make the same mistake twice. So we don't know what's going to happen with the economy. We don't know what kind of business we have. And all of a sudden gas prices are super high. We don't know why. We have to just be mobile when that happens. But as long as we're not putting ourselves in the same position over and over again, then I think that we can excel even more. So for example, you use the phrase, if you get knocked down, or if you get punched and you get knocked down, dust yourself off and get back up again. I always love this reference because I think it's so empty. And so it's so, and I'm going to say this and I love America. It's so American, like just get back up, get back in there. And it's like
Rocky, right? Thanks, Rocky.
Right. Yeah, exactly. It's very Rocky. It's like, hey, you just take a couple blows, forget about it. But no, there needs to be more. And there's such an adage to it that is missing. So what I always say is you get knocked down, you dust yourself off again. But before you get truly back in the fight, you figure out what happened to you to get there. So say you got hit by, using a boxing reference, say you got hit with a left hook. Well, don't walk back in there and take the left hook again, like Rocky would. Like actually learn from that, duck, learn how to, get out of the way. So learn from the mistakes. And you know what? You're probably going to get hit then with the right cross and you're going to get knocked down again. This is Rocky because we can continuously keep going in our pocket, keep going in our heart and find a way to get back up. But each time you get back up, learn from it. And eventually you make enough mistakes, you become a very educated failure. So what that means is you now not only have the ability to block and get out of the way, but now you can counterpunch at life, to use kind of that adage. Now you've learned what got you there. And now you can actually go back on the offensive because you know what failures got you to that place. And I think that's the goal of every time that I fail, is to learn those lessons that allow me not just to get out of the way of the mistakes, but actually counterpunch and go back at them next time.
Yeah. So list the businesses you've had.
Okay. So out of college, or just after that, I did wedding videos. I was a videographer for weddings, which was also a lot of fun. Like it's that joyous
moment. Why am I picturing you with a mullet doing that? For some reason, like the Wedding Singer with Adam Sandler movie came on. It just popped into my mind.
No, I had like a nice camera and I was respected. I do remember one time I did kind of
one, or are you wearing,
It was right at the beginning of the really nice big handhelds that were light. I had like a Sony something. It was like a $4,000 camera though. I'll real like 30-second story, really funny. I'll never forget one of the weddings I did was kind of this like lower income wedding, I guess is what I would call it. Like the parents paid for it, but like the bride and the groom, they just had a baby. It was like a shotgun wedding kind of thing. And I remember they wanted us, and I had an assistant with me, my buddy, and they wanted us to videotape the girls getting dressed. And I'm like, this is awkward. This is a little weird.
I will.
And as the girl, the bride was right in front of us, she bent over and there was just thong. And like, we tried not to laugh, but the shoulders started going. And I just remember like one of the other like 19-year-old trashy sisters looks over and goes, how about you two men grow up? And I'm like, well, there goes my tip. Anyways, so wedding videos, that one didn't fail. It just was kind of a small business out. Just was like kind of a hobby business. So then there was that. Then there was the dog tag company named Pride Tags, which it seems like every business that I have is themed at being something greater than yourself. And that was what Pride Tags was about. That one failed.
Not having to do with the gay movement, I'm guessing.
No.
Just
However,
pride,
we
be
do
proud
have
of who you are.
Proud of who you are. Yeah, we do have 2 more days in this lovely month, depending on when you're watching this. So
congrats to all our gay listeners on Pride Month.
Congrats that it's almost over and we can go back to realizing that we're all just equal people instead of this weird crap that not going to get into it. Anyways, so that one, the Pride Tags was about the idea of like it actually started when I was on the road. We'd get dog tags with our names on it and our nicknames. And it was the fact that we just took so much pride in our work when we were doing that touring. It was called Coca-Cola Spirit of Champions tour. And when we started doing that together, it was like a brotherhood and we realized there was something more to it. Anyways, so Pride Tags, that failed miserably. Then I went into business with one of the people I met while going on the road. His name was Doug. We started Identity Partners, where we tried to get into experiential marketing. We realized that experiential marketing that's kind of been my whole world for 15 years. Experiential is anytime you go to an event and like a concert and people are handing out either samples or providing an experience for somebody as marketing. So like even Pepsi, Coke, if they're sampling, that's experiential marketing. If there is a game going on with branding around it and they're having people come play like fans, like fan experience, that's experiential marketing. So we decided to be an experience. We had been working for experiential marketing. We decided to be experiential marketing company. We had a couple small clients. Things were not going well. He did not do business the way that I do, which is always available, always on the phone. And he's that guy that he should have been a 9-to-5 worker because he's like, well, holidays are for family and this and that. And I get that. But in order to get to that place as an entrepreneur, you got to work for years or just grind it out. Something's got to give. You can't do that in the beginning of a business, period. And if that's not your mentality, that's completely fine. Don't be an entrepreneur. Don't. So him and I, we had some issues. Some of the contacts were his, and then somebody reached out about, can you staff events? And I was like, I will do whatever it takes to make money right now because we're running out. And I staffed a 6-person event, and then they're like, you did good. You want to do the Super Bowl? 100 people a day, 10 days. It was an absolute nightmare. And working with my business partner then was even worse. And the worst part was I did all of the work. I did every inch of it. And we split the 30,000 profit, 55, 45 him to me, which was really frustrating because that was the way the company was organized. It was brutal. But that was a very stressful week and whatever it was. But once him and I split and we had little, arbitration lawsuit type thing. Once we did that and I moved on to identity marketing, everything took off from there and we became $1 million revenue, or I became $1 million revenue business within 18 months. And we were always right around that $1 million mark, kind of by design. If it got any bigger, we would have had a little bit more IRS issues with employees / independent contractors, which if I was still in business today and I hadn't merged, no matter what size you are, you'd have to be employees. So really, yeah, you can't, the independent contractor stuff is hard because if you provide them with a time to be someplace, it's gone away from the whole what the purpose of independent contracts. It's the government. They want to collect more taxes, and I understand that to a point, but we don't get to really say where our taxes are going. Again, getting political, don't need to. But
isn't it that the independent contractor pays the taxes versus you paying the employment taxes? If it was now it becomes their income, right? Because I usually pitch, so companies will hire me sometimes to be their outsourced sales manager or chief sales officer, whatever it is.
Yeah.
And I prefer it that way. I don't want to be an employee. I'll still come do the work, but pay me as a contractor. And I always thought that benefits the company.
The independent contractor does benefit the company. 100% benefit. Nobody wants to be, that's the thing. It benefits the employee because you have more tax write-offs as an independent contractor. It benefits the company because they're not paying the extra taxes up front or the extra paperwork.
Mm-hmm. And they can get rid of me if they don't like me. Just cancel the contract.
Exactly.
You can't fire somebody that easily, right?
Exactly. So yeah, so it is the independent contractor, it's free. It's essentially free enterprise and it's free will all at the same time. And if you get locked in as an employee, it hurts for you a little bit, and also makes the company, you kind of become a tenant where it's like, well, I still kind of live here, so good luck getting rid of me. It makes it a lot harder. And the great thing that, like with you doing that, you're essentially helping them out. Therefore, you're probably setting your own hours, and you're just essentially contracted to work a certain amount of time total, and you can work on your own. That's why you're still an independent contractor in that sense. But if they said, while you work for us from March to June, you show up at 9 a.m., you attend every meeting at this set time, etc., then you have to be, even if you're contracted, you actually have to become an employee in today's world.
Dude, I think we always have to find like pay for performance. I actually just had a meeting last week. I was on vacation. The week before that, a business owner wanted to hire a coach for a couple of her leaders. So I met with her and I gave her a proposal, and it went silent. I followed up and we restarted the conversation, and she's like, listen, you're probably double the price of the next highest proposal I got. I said, that's right. I'm not the cheapest, but I'm not going to be an expense. I'm going to increase your revenues. Like that's my goal. And she said, how would you feel about doing something where there's a variable component? So you get paid for performance. I'm like, I love that. I freaking love it. Let's do it. She's like, you do? She backed up. She's like, you do? I said, absolutely. I'm telling you, I'm going to be a revenue producer for you. I want that because I know I'm going to make more money if it's variable.
Right. You have faith in your product. Absolutely.
Absolutely. And so now we're back. We're talking. She's like, nobody ever wants to do that. You're the first guy that told me he would do it. I'm like, I'm gonna do it. You gotta be confident in what you do. All right. Back to you. Sorry. So
no, that's great. Cause that also, it's funny. In some other business deals I've done, I've offered similar stuff, and people really don't understand. They don't understand that I love that concept of a shared profit. Shared profit is to me one of the greatest things, because then nobody can get screwed as long as you're open with your books and you do things correctly. Yep. That means that if you fail, they're not out more money than they should be. I love partnerships like that. The key is just making sure that there's good contracts so that you get paid at the end. But I think that style of business is really the way where things should go in this world of gurus that we have. We're like, all you got to do, you pay $3.99, you take my course and you're going to have 1 million followers and all these different things. Like, cool. How about I pay you $49.99? And as we go, I'll be willing to pay you 10 grand if you do what you say you do. But
yep. No, it's online. They don't want to hop on the phone with you. Yeah, I've had that too, man. It's so frustrating these days. I was looking to get into real estate investing, and this guy just spoke to me because he claims to be like this guru for short-term rentals and how to get into that and what to look for. And I'm like, I'm always learning and growing. So I reached out to him via Messenger, and I'm like, hey man, can we hop on a call? I want to learn what you do, potentially hire you as my coach for this. He sends me this 15-page questionnaire pre-qualifying me. I was like, dude, go pound sand. I don't even want to. I'm done. I'm not. So
that's funny you say that. My last business, Kelly and I, we were trying to buy that massage school. Mm-hmm. Part of it, I told you the massage school, because we own a spa and we're trying to find, recession-proof businesses. And, it's interesting. We would not have had the issue that ended up causing us to be able to exit the escrow if it wasn't for the fact that the leasing agency, not loan, not us trying to get the loan, to actually get the lease transferred into our name, took 7 weeks to get the final paperwork to us. Closing should be 30 days. We kept having to extend the closing and extend the closing, the leasing, and which also raised a red flag. We're like, how are we ever going to sell this business? The lease is impossible to transfer. These people are horrific. And it was a 56-page lease that I had to, and I have a legal brain, not that legal of a brain. So I took a day and a half to go through this lease to make sure certain things. I had to Google certain phrases. It was the most legalese thing I'd have ever seen. So then the addendum was 6 pages, and then to go back and forth for them to approve it. And we had to send in more than we had to send in for our loan. Not kidding. Everything from credit to assets to this. And it's for a $5,000 a month lease. I'm like, this is the dumbest thing I've ever seen in my whole entire life. And in that process, something happened with their business where there was allegations online and all these different things that happened well after the first closing date should have been. And it's like, yeah, well, why we should have
up and say thank you, God.
Yeah, exactly. Be like, thank you for this being such a ridiculous process, because now we know that we wanted to move on. Like it was insane. It's terrible.
Wow.
Terrible.
It's amazing how things always work out.
Yeah.
They're gonna work out.
so then we'll get to the current mistake that I made. So I'm in this, and I think that part of it, and in total transparency, it's been a rough, and you know this, but to the audience watching, it's been for somebody that was in events. I think my failure in the last couple of years was not capitalizing on this greatest wealth transfer ever. Like I did good on stocks. I took they've gone a lot back down, but I put essentially 20,000 in, and at one point that 20,000 was at $100,000. And I did good in stocks, did pretty decent in crypto investments, but I did not take advantage of the money that I had in buying new business during this. And as we saw, real estate's gone up, everything's gone up drastically. And then as time has gone, so I didn't get to, as somebody in events, I didn't work from March of 2020 until really college football season last year. So I went a solid 15, 16 months with no revenue, just living off of the money I had made, and then hopefully turning some in stocks and this, that, and the other. And it got a little stressful. I started spending some money out. And I feel like as somebody that has made decent money in their life and has been successful, thinking that you can continue to be successful while your back's up against the wall, you have to look at things differently. You have to gauge things a little bit different. And I think when your back's up against the wall, your judgment is impaired. And some of the mistakes that I've made recently, like risk taking is great. Like one of the businesses that you and I do has done very well. Obviously I've continued to make a few $100 a week, like enough where it's worthwhile. One didn't work out so well, and that was fine. I think both of us stayed a little low on that level.
Not both of us.
Well, compared to the money you were investing, obviously, if you would have done what you were doing in the other one.
That's true.
But
somebody asked me yesterday, by the way, and just for you guys who are listening, it's like I'm talking like $30,000 that just disappeared. And somebody asked me, like, "Are you gonna go after that guy?" And I was like, "Nope, no. I knew it was a risk. It was my fault."
Yeah, I knew. I have way too many people message me on that one. Did you get involved in that? I'm like, yeah, I did. And you know what? I knew the risk reward on that one. The other one had a little bit more solid ground, and that's why I was willing to put more in. Yeah. Still running. And I tested it for months before I put money in, and I knew what you had done. And I knew that, so I knew the risk, and people are like, I'm so sorry you lost I lost, I think $3,000. So they're like, I'm so sorry you lost money. I'm like, that one I knew was gambling. I knew that it was a risk, high risk, high reward, but regardless, the last one though was my $30,000 mistake, which was Turo Car Business. Long story short, I bought about $100,000 worth of cars because I still have good credit, but lower revolving, obviously, or higher revolving. So I bought the cars based on advice from somebody that has a good social media presence, Dallas based. There was 10 other partners going into it that had been doing it for 6 months. Nobody had anything negative to say. We know why now, because every time there was something that came up, people avoided the wrath of this crazy individual. So long story short, I had to fight to get my cars back after 4 months. And there is a whole line of weird crap that happened along through it, but it is probably the worst decision I've made in my life. And I made money the first month, not the money that I thought I would. The goal was to make like $500 a car and to be completely hands off. Instead, I was making like $150 a car profit and so hands on, it was ridiculous.
And just
but
so
I think
people understand what you're talking about, like Turo Business is, traditionally I can just snap a picture of my car, put it up on Turo, and people who are coming into town want a car rental, they just rent from me instead of Hertz or Budget, whatever. And what this guy's doing is he's using other people's cars. So he's saying, hey, I'll set up the Turo account. I'll have 15 cars. People have to go and buy the cars, give him the cars. Who keeps the insurance? He kept the insurance, or you also had to have insurance.
So since it's my loan, fortunately, since I took a loan and didn't pay like through another loan, like some people did, I still have insurance on the vehicles.
Okay. So you hold the insurance, and he was going to take care of everything for you. He's posting the cars. He's cleaning them. He's getting them.
He was posting and cleaning, and that was, and he was renting them out. But I don't think he was ever properly insured. I think that was a complete line, falsified information. And he was a sketchy dude. Just, it turns out it was all smoke and mirrors on a lot of it. And he's just not a nice individual. Like, I mean, we're talking sociopath behavior via text that is the next level. And we have a group of people working, together. Like, is it worth suing him? I don't know, honestly, because what does he really have? Does he really make any money? I don't think so. Turo, and by the way, Turo is good if you're doing it yourself. It's great because you could drive whatever vehicle you don't want. Like, say you've always wanted a Corvette. Get a Corvette and a couple other cars and drive that Corvette when it's not being rented, and be smart about it. Do the higher insurance and do whatever. And I think there is a good thing, but everything was shifty, and I could not get my vehicles back. When he fired me as a client, I was like, okay, this is a bad situation, because I know I bought at the top of the market, and at this point they've got way more miles on it than they should. Something was fishy, something was off, and I'd be out about, if I were to resell them right now, I'd be out about 30 to 35,000, if not more, between the three vehicles. So the thing, and did you ever read The Alchemist, like I told you to?
I started to. I could not get through it, man.
It's like 100 pages. It's like
one
day.
A boring story.
It's a fable. It is a fable.
Anyways, whatever.
It relates.
I'll have to do it.
just force yourself to get through. Granted, I say that and I never have time to read, but
I know I read every day. I love reading. I have like 10 books that I'm not finished reading at the same time.
That's when I get into the reading thing. That's what I'll do. Halfway through, same thing. But anyway, so I was one of the cars I had to track down at a shop that had like $8,000 worth of damage, which it is what it is. And then the next one,
they crashed and you weren't notified.
I was notified that somebody curbed the car. This is when we were still doing business together. Turns out it was more than that. They've damaged two $2,000 pails of wheels. It's a wrap vehicle, so you have to get the bumper replaced and then rewrapped in the matching color. So that was the 2013 Jaguar. So that one's about $8,000 damage. He wouldn't tell me where that car was until I knew which shops he went to, and I had to track that down. The BMW 435 that was in it was a convertible. I ended up it took me a while to get the BMW services kicked in to prove that it was my vehicle, get it turned on, and the GPS didn't work for like 24 hours. And then all of a sudden it popped up. It was at the airport. I tracked it down at DFW airport in one of the parking lots. And then the last car, they had disabled the 2017 BMW. They disabled the GPS. So there was nothing that I can do to find it unless they overrode the system with the police report. This is where you probably saw me go nuts online, is in the state of Texas, it's policy that if it is a civil matter, because I originally gave the vehicles to him, even if I have 100 text messages of crazy SOB saying, not giving me the details of my car, me asking for it, it doesn't matter. I need to send a certified letter, wait 10 days. I'm like, I'm seeing them because I could see that my car was still being driven. I just didn't know where. So it's getting 100 miles a day. I don't know where it's going. I don't know what condition it's going to be in. Like, I just want my car back. Turns out, by the way, the rear wheels, who does burnouts in a 4-cylinder turbo? The back wheels are at 0 of 36. There's zero tread. I just bought the car 3 months ago. They were fine. So who does this stuff? So anyways, besides that, the car's in great shape. So I did finally get it back. And this is the sign. This is the Alchemist reference. So I got to pull up the quote real quick. I can paraphrase. So I always believe my guardian angel is my Aunt Rita. She passed away in 2011. She was like a second mom to me. I'm very close to my mother, but she was like a second mom, and she just had this different level of advice. And ever since she's passed away and my dad passed away, if I were to say who my guardian angel is, it's not my dad, it's my aunt. So after 12 days I have never had emotional distress like this, 12 days, because I knew that until I got the vehicle back, even my insurance is not going to really cover this stolen vehicle or withheld vehicle. So I got a text. I got a Facebook message from my college freshman girlfriend. And my mom even said the day before, she's like, I think Rita's looking out after you. She's looking after you on this one. So I got a message, and there's no kidding. My mom said it the day before. I got a message from Bobby, my 18-year-old girlfriend. I'm 39 years old, saying, "Hey, Aunt, I found these in a jewelry box. I've been meaning to message you about this for a while. Your aunt gave me these in our freshman year when we went and visited New Jersey. And she goes, I know that these would be great for either Kelly, your girlfriend, or your daughter, Luca." And I just started bawling, dude. I was in my car and I'm like, I'm going to get my car back today. Like, this is a message from 21 years ago saying I found this like cross and these earrings and they were like real gold, I think. And I remember, and then all of a sudden it flashed back to me. The one time we visited my freshman year of college, when we flew out there, she gave Bobby these Christmas gifts. And I was like, I'm going to find it. And that day it was when I finally figured out where it was, and I started making friends with some of the airport people that worked in the toll booths. He goes, it's at Dallas Love Airport. It's been there for a week. It was there for an hour based on the tolls. It had just been dropped off there. And he sent me as I drove, I'm driving through the parking garage. As I drove up to the vehicle and found it, he sends me a photo of exactly where it was. So after 12 days of begging for this information, I managed to get it the same time I found it, because I knew that it was there, because I called the toll booth people and he sent me this photo. So I knew that was the day that I found. I'm like, my aunt was actually looking out after me on that one.
Dude, that's pretty sick. So, all right. So what are the lessons learned? So you got knocked down with this guy. That's $30,000 knockdown, which hopefully you still have an opportunity to make some money back, rent the cars yourself.
Yeah. And I think what are you
going to look for next with the next guy?
Do stuff you're comfortable with. This is one of the ones
that's the advice. Do stuff aren't you a coach?
Yeah.
You got to get people out of the comfort zone. We tell people to do stuff they're not comfortable with.
Okay. So let me rephrase it then. So do stuff, not that you're I think you should be out of your comfort zone. Absolutely. Do stuff that you're knowledgeable with, or that is like, if you're not knowledgeable with it, then you need to be in control of it to take the risk. Like, don't hand off control unless you know the business partners and know the other people inside and outside. Like, know everything about, or if you want to get involved in something you're uncomfortable with, learn about it beforehand. Like, I did enough research about Turo. I'm like, there's money in it right now. There's a shortage of rental cars. They're all expensive like this. And that's why I think Turo is not a bad business to do on the side. I suggest it. I would recommend it to a lot of people, but the way that I did it was the problem. So I'm uncomfortable right now adding some hours to my week during Turo, but we found a happy medium where it could work. My mom needs a car. It all works out like, whatever. So yes, be uncomfortable, but make sure you are comfortable in your uncomfortability. Set yourself up for success. Knowledgeable. And also when we're in a world like we are right now. Sorry, go ahead. What were you gonna say?
I said knowledgeable in your uncomfortability.
Yeah.
You don't have to be comfortable. You got to be knowledgeable.
Knowledgeable in your own company.
Right.
And you know, one of the things I did on this in my head was, and sometimes understand that you're just going to get screwed. Unfortunately, life is going to screw you, and you just got to find a way to come back out of it and think positive. Because
sometimes
in all
you're
reality,
the pigeon, and sometimes you're the statue, man. I mean,
exactly. And in this case, it was like, I was like, worst case scenario, I do this for about 6 months. I'm not making the money I want. I lose about 10 grand in the trade-off, you know, and I get to expense mileage. Worst case. So I always like to play the worst case scenario. I did not see this one coming. I did not. Like, there was nothing. And like, I was even trying to sell it to you because I'm like, this is a great deal. Like, and you know, you get the depreciation. And in all reality, I think if somebody was honest about their business practices, my worst case situation would have been even. Turns out there are criminals out there that even if you've been friends with them on social media for 8 years, you don't realize that there's crooks out there. There just is. There's no other way to look at it. So sometimes realize that when your back's up against a wall, try to be if you typically spend 5 hours researching something to make sure that it's the right deal, spend 10.
Talk to people.
Yeah.
Talk to some people who already did it. It's interesting because my next week's episode, which is going to come out before this episode comes out, is with Inga Rock. She is unbelievable. I actually interviewed her yesterday. Firecracker, $1 million a year coach in Belgium, and had a perfumery business where she taught ladies how to put makeup on and all the perfumes and all that stuff back in 2004. Handed her keys because she worked in the business. She liked that part, right? Working with women and all that stuff. Gave the keys to the business to her husband and the CPA, and they ran it into the ground, stole a shitload of money, left her without a business, €1 million in debt, and divorced. And I mean, what a freaking story. But by the time this is out, that one should be out. So if you guys aren't, head over there, listen to it. But it reminded me of you saying, hey, do not freaking hand over your keys unless you truly, truly know and trust. And that was her husband. I mean, I don't know how you don't trust that. All right.
Human nature is crazy, man. My mom's business, she went bankrupt during the recession. I never went bankrupt, but that was whatever. So it was during the recession. And what it was the person that was her office manager forever, best of friends by this point. There was, when my mom broke her knee, a male doctor came to fill in for my mom that was young and wooed her front desk person, and they started stealing patients from my mom, who was her friend of 10 years as opposed to this new guy, because she was always lonely and he fulfilled that human need in her. Screwed my mom over, ended her business, kind of pulled stuff away. And then also like nobody was being honest about the numbers, which I think happened a lot during the recession back in 2008. Like, things are okay. And next thing you're like, by the way, I think you're going to default on this 60,000 line of credit. And it's like, ooh. So she went out of business because people just, like, the husband, wife, business part, it doesn't matter. People change for really weird reasons. And just understanding that you have to be ready to be mobile and be ready to find the next thing and constantly have that positive attitude that it's like the Tony Robbins saying, it's happening for us and not to us. And I think that's what I have to take from this last week.
Yeah, dude, that is so good, man. Well, I hope you bounce back. Talk to me about your new show that you're starting now, Blunt Force Discussions. Yeah.
So this is what I'm most excited about. And this is, I've spent, I love coaching, but I love having a conversation, and I've grown to truly, truly love politics. I had a show called Truth Will Set You Free. Still have it. We're on episode 104 now, and it's a group of people that we have a discussion, and most of us are on the same side, but we still disagree. We don't have to be, I don't think we have to be tribal about politics. And I've been an interviewer for different things for a while now. And I wanted to start something. I started like a segment called Blunt Force Logic. And then I realized Blunt Force Discussion also has the same initials as BFD. So like big effing deal. So it kind of works together. Our first guest on that show was Chad Prather. He ran for Texas governor, and he's a very well-known host on The Blaze. Great guy. He actually, by the way, might be helping out next year with the Great American Summit in Texas. And then second host was Tony Van Schoik. So she's awesome. She's a badass, $10 million earner from Monet, one of the original founders of that company. And I think that's one thing I'm probably going to do. Like I've never been a network marketing person, but I'm going to run that through the show. My audience is 40 to 65-year-old women for some odd reason, and that's target demographic for that group. So we'll see. But the show is an hour, a little over an hour long, on all the podcast networks. On Facebook, it's Blunt Force Discussion, and on YouTube and Rumble, it's Be the Change USA. The whole show is, let's have a talk. We're going to agree about some stuff. We're going to talk about positivity. We're going to talk about how their businesses got to where they were. We'll probably talk about, the crazy stuff like the word that starts with a V and our opinions on it. And I hopefully will build it to a point where the people from the opposite side or left or non-freedom loving people will have a conversation with me, because I am not fully conservative. And I haven't said what side I've been on, but especially right now, I have some liberal beliefs that even my right side friends that I do shows with disagree with. And I think that having the conversation is incredibly important. And I think it's interesting to a viewer. So that's what I'm working on. And
conservative, right?
What's that?
You were not always a conservative, right?
I was raised
for Obama, didn't you?
I voted for Obama. I was raised a Democrat. My mom was a Democrat up until we were both right about 2012 is when both of us kind of made the full shift over. And in all reality, like I wouldn't have done anything different, because I really did not I still to this day cannot stand Mitt Romney. So Romney was out. I might have changed my McCain vote maybe in 2008 looking back, but again, hindsight's 2020. I don't know. I think I think Obama was very important to have in office, just because I think it proves that we are not this massively racist country anymore. And I think that's ground to stand on for an argument to say we need to just move forward instead of looking back. And yeah, I think politics are right now, the situation the country is in is important to have those conversations the way that we used to, which is, I don't like this. I disagree with you there. I disagree with you. I disagree with you.
That
Let's
means
go get
you're an asshole.
Yeah. Right? Instead of don't end it with you're an asshole. End it with let's go get a drink. Like we're allowed to have different things. I like the Roe versus Wade. I think there's so many different ways to look at it that it's impossible. The one thing I always say about politics and about these kind of conversations is the only person that is 100% wrong is the person that thinks that they are 100% right. We are humans. We have a myriad of things that have happened in our past, and we have environmental issues. We even have genetic things that have caused us to be predisposed to an opinion. And to not understand why somebody is going to have a slightly different opinion than you, that doesn't make it okay to be crazy and like naked on the street yelling at children. That doesn't make it okay. But there is a middle ground that is the bulk of Americans in this country that I think have a very valid reason why they feel certain ways. And I think having that conversation and finding out the whys hopefully will open people's eyes. And that is my ultimate goal with Blunt Force Discussion. Grow it and just have a new kind of conversation.
Yeah, I think, dude, that's why I like you so much, man, because I think one of my favorite Wayne Dyer quotes is be open to everything and attached to nothing.
Oh, I like that.
That's it. And people are so attached to their beliefs, they don't want to let them go, whether they're right or not. Like literally there are people now protesting for abortion, not women's
not choice, not choice.
But abortion. I want you to kill babies. Like that's freaking insane.
Yeah.
That's insane. I like Matt Walsh's. You said, truth shall set you free. Matt Walsh just had an interview. Well, he did a documentary. It's called What is a Woman?
What is a Woman? Yeah.
And I haven't seen the documentary, but he's interviewing this college professor. You can tell the guy's a gay dude. And what does he do? He's like, he teaches, he's a professor in gender studies. So Matt Walsh asked him like, well, what is a woman? It's like, whatever you want a woman to be. He's like, no, but you can't use that as a definition. but let me ask you this way. He said, when a man transitions into a woman, what is he transitioning into? A woman. He's like, what's a woman? Why do you ask? I just want to know why you're asking. And it's like, it was driving me nuts. If you can't define a woman, what a woman is, I don't care if I agree, disagree. I don't know. You ask me right now, I'm like, to me, a woman, someone who gets pregnant and menstruates and, has certain body parts. That's a woman. I don't know. I'm not a biologist, right?
Good. Yeah. Thank you. Now you can be on the Supreme Court.
Yeah. So, but this guy, like, we're not fighting, but we're arguing with an ideology that doesn't really have a clear definition of what they're arguing for. And it's just fluid. And I don't get it.
It thrives on anarchy. And it thrives on chaos, and it thrives on mental illness. And again, mental illness is a problem, but it becomes a bigger problem when mental illness is no longer looked at as a problem, but a celebration. God, Tony used a word on our show, exploited. In Pride Month, we're exploiting mental illness, and not saying homosexuality is mental illness. I do think people that refer to them in weird pronouns that have essentially are saying you have multiple personalities, I
think it's messed up personally that somebody bundled all that crap together.
LGBTQ, XYZ, WXYZ, APL plus. Yeah.
Because I have friends who are gay, who are conservative. I have friends who are gay, who are liberals.
I do too.
They're just gay. They're attracted to a certain sex. Perfectly fine. I don't care. My sister's gay. I don't care.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter. Like, it's zero matters to me if somebody's gay, straight, don't care. But these fairies out there now with the bunny ears and their cats and dogs, I don't know.
Well, if you're going to say fairies, they're actually dressed like fairies because they will dress.
That's what I mean.
Yeah.
That's what I mean. Or furries or Furbies, whatever.
Furries. Yeah.
Fergies.
Nothing. It doesn't make it
doesn't make sense. Them, they. Did you see the one? It's like it might have been some conservative comedy folks. I don't know. The skit was a cop pulls a woman over and he's like, do you know why I pulled you over? She's like, no. He said, you've been driving in this POV lane that's supposed to have at least two people in the vehicle all by yourself. I identify as they, so we are driving.
Oh, that's epic. But honestly, that logic, if that's the logic that our elected officials and that our media wants to go with, technically that should win a legal argument. That should win a case. Like, it's insane. And since it is, and again, about a week or two after that these play typically? When you promote.
Yeah, you'll be not next Tuesday, but the one after. So the second week of July.
I'm sure this will still be part of the conversation, because I think that this is going to be a conversation leading all the way up until the election. But Roe versus Wade to me is, each time I keep thinking it's going to be the straw that breaks the camel's back on division. And I just think that this is such an interesting, it's not about abortion. First off, to state my point, Roe versus Wade was bad law. It should have been overturned for 50, 60 years, just based on my opinion. That does not make me pro-life, to be very clear. I'm not a full pro-life person because I think it's very confusing. You can't cite the Bible as evidence, and science has mixed opinions on where life begins.
Well, they don't even know what a woman is. So
they don't even know what a woman is.
Choice are we talking about here?
So I get that there is 50. This is the ultimate 50 shades of gray for people, which is again why I do believe it's questionable. And I think you follow Ian Wendt as well, the Patriot. He had a great post about him being very pro-life, but religion, freedom and religion should not be interchanged. And I think there is a question, like, if you truly believe it's murder, then yeah, I would see why you are pro-life. But who is to say, just because your opinion is that, I think there is an opinion. And honestly, I have trouble, like every morning I wake up wanting to be more pro-life, wanting to be fully like biblically, like right at conception. But I have trouble with it. I don't see
you meet a guy like you did with Turo and you're like, fuck that, he should have been aborted.
He should have been aborted.
I'm kidding. Exactly. I'm kidding.
I'm kind of not, but no, but in all reality, like when you look at the size of the baby and yeah, they blow it up and they, you look at it and it's like this big. And then a lot of the pro-life people are hunters. I love hunting. Like I liked, that thing. And it's like, that one's out of a womb. It's living, it's breathing, and we've killed it. And yes, we use it for food. I understand that. But man, it's such a delicate issue in the human brain that causes you to think in a whole bunch of different ways. And I think that's why this is such a divisive topic. And there's a lot of Republicans and conservatives that on the down low are pro-choice. And I think that kind of skews the voting public. And there's a lot of misinformation.
I don't think this could be all or nothing, right? Like my views, I think first trimester, right? Like within the first trimester.
That's my views as well.
Or something. Yeah, but fuck, if you go past that, it's a baby. I have 2 kids. And by the way, the mother has to live with that trauma. The family has to deal with that trauma forever. It's not an easy decision. By the way, as 2 white males, are we allowed to talk about this? I don't know. Should we ask?
I see that, and apparently we're not.
I don't think I'm allowed to. We're the evil. But let me ask you, what was I going to say? I think my biggest challenge as I kind of scroll through, and you know me, I don't even try to watch the news, but this Roe v. Wade overturning has me watching more of it. And I watch both, by the way, Fox, CNN, Newsmax. Like I fucking Morning Joe or whatever that is. I cannot do that.
On MSNBC, he's brutal.
And the View hosts who decided to prove their point and went to the Bahamas, but Bahamas, it's illegal to have an abortion in the Bahamas, but they're proving their point over there because they don't want to be in this crazy country.
By the way, Bahamas also hates gay people. Like, I mean,
I don't know.
Literally, it's bad. Like if you they call it a chichiman out there and you are at risk of losing your life, like it's a big deal. So I think it's ironic. East, huh? Yeah, it's very similar to Middle East.
The biggest challenge I have here is everybody wants to change the world, but nobody wants to change themselves first. And I look at these thousands of people on the news who are protesting day by day for hours in front of the Capitol in Dallas. I've seen them in Arizona. They're breaking down buildings. What's their home life like? Do you feel like they have their shit figured out? Like, I don't see Elon Musk out there. I don't see many successful people doing that. And like Mother Teresa said, if you want to change the world, go home and love your family.
Right.
First, so I'm studying Science of Getting Rich right now. It's an old book by Wallace D. Wattles. And in it, he says, it was written in 1903. And he says, do not be bothered by any political stuff, any environmental stuff, nothing outside until you become rich. Make it your first and foremost duty to become rich because the world needs you rich. And if you're rich, you can make the changes. You can support your causes. You can help women who need abortion. You can help women who don't want abortion. Like you can do so much if you're rich. Go find a way to become rich. And it's so interesting to read that from a guy who wrote it in 1903 and watching these guys now whose life probably sucks. I can't imagine putting on a black mask and all black and going to burn down flags. I don't see successful people doing it. I don't know why they're doing it. What motivates you to do it is just that animalistic instinct that, oh, this happened. It made me mad. I'm going to go do something. And like, we got to treat them like children who are having a panic attack or a spasm. What do you think?
I agree. I just want to correct myself. I think it was the Dominican where they don't like gay people. I can't. It's one of the two. Might be Bahamas. Might be Dominican. I don't want to say the wrong place. Might be both. I don't know. I just think that it's such a weird. We're in such a delicate place in this world where each of the interviews that I've done for Blunt Force Discussion have concluded with, we don't know if we're going to get a semblance of America back. Like can we end the division? And I don't know if we can. And that's the resounding theme, just based on the way things are set up right now. So, I mean, kind of what you're talking about, I don't know there is no good answer right now, except for continuing to have a conversation and trying to relate. And the way that when I started Be the Change, the concept of the discussions were to instead of meeting people with the same fire coming at like from the left, and you look at the lunacy of, you've got January 6th where you were actually demanding something of their government at the government steps, to the other side that was saying how horrific that was as they take to streets and destroy small businesses and destroy people that are just individuals, instead of yell at their government, which is the freedom of being an American. We should hold our leaders accountable. In all reality, we have to look at the anger people have. For example, use Roe versus Wade. They're angry because they think their ability to have an abortion has been taken away. It's not. It's gone back to the states. That misinformation. So we have to understand that, instead of saying, you're effing wrong, and meeting them in the middle of this angry area, you meet them with this, and it sounds soft, but you meet them with empathy, and you allow them to yell at you, and you take it, and you take it, and you take it. And then eventually you try to, once you have built a willingness to listen, like, I don't think the Steven Crowders of the world and all these people that are doing the man on the street, essentially just saying you're idiots back. Sometimes it's funny to watch. I don't think that does anything but galvanize a base. So if you really want to create change in this world right now, and especially in this country, you have to be willing to just take a beating. I'm willing to take a beating. I really am. And I think you have to take the beating, let them build trust, and then have a very difficult conversation that includes logic and facts.
Yeah. And don't be the first to speak, right?
Don't be the first to speak. Absolutely. Right. Best
Definitely
way to sum that up.
More than you talk. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Dude, this was so fun. Anthony, I don't get into politics ever on the show. Glad that, you don't disappoint.
I have a graceful, and it's interesting. The last thing I'll say, I want to read this one message that I got from somebody that I loved, because with Tony, we talked about, we're both very, like you, I have a lot of, in the barrel racing world with Kelly, a lot of gay guys that barrel race, and most of them are Republicans, or most of them are conservative. And I just, I hate the fact that everybody's pigeonholed in that. So we talked about Pride Month and how dangerous it is, and the fact that it's not doing anything positive. It's leading people to become more split and divided. But I got a message from somebody that I did not actually, I know he's a follower of mine from Truth Will Set You Free. It said, Anthony, I just watched your second effing installment, because Tony's thing is effing simple. Installment of Blunt Force Discussion. Marvelous comes to effing mind. Seriously, you're doing a great effing job, or a great job. So proud of your work. It was also nice to hear one thing in particular from you. And he says, I'm going to come out to you. I'm a gay Republican who deplores what the gay community has done and is doing to poison the minds of children. It's nice to know that you have tolerance and compassion, and I appreciate what you had to say about that issue. Thank you for making your discussion so informative and entertaining. And thank you for being a friend above all else. It means a lot. And I've contributed to the Patreon, and he's going to contribute more when this becomes available, and he wishes continuous luck. So the ability to have that kind of impact on a listener that is, and I had no idea, he's messaged me a bunch of the best, had no idea that he was gay. But the fact that you can have a conversation with those that are different than you, and you can also in some ways condemn a certain behavior without really condemning it. You're condemning the celebration of it and just saying, I'm going to sleep with a woman, you're going to sleep with a man. Let's just be decent to each other. And I think that made my night the other day, getting that message. So
that is really cool, man. I don't think it was the gay community. Well, I don't know what he's referencing there, but I'm not sure the gay community is the community that's bringing all this on. I think they kind of got stuck in the crosshairs there, and feel bad for them, because some gay people just want to live their life like you and me do. They just have a different sexual orientation or whatever that they're attracted to. Anyway, you want to change the world, make your bed. But first, change yourself. And the way to do that, listen, you hire a coach, you get a mentor, you listen to this channel, you listen to Anthony, give me a call. I'll help you think differently. That's what I do. And hopefully we'll see you on the next episode. Anthony, thanks for joining us, my man.
Thank you.
See you, brother.